Hey guys, it's time for another Jess, Wyse story time. It's been a hot minute, so buckle your seatbelts, kiddos. Alright, so if you read the title, you know what's about to go down. Basically, I'm gonna be discussing the time I broke my arm, because I feel like this is a story that needs to be told. This needs to be on the internet. People who went to school with me, I know they wanted to know all the juicy details of this occurrence. I'm just spreading the wealth, man. Anyway, this happened in 8th grade, and it's a softball injury. I played softball for most of my life. I played from the age of 5 years old when I was on a team sponsored by Moto Photo, you know, the infamous brand, up through high school, and I played on a travel team from like age 12 to 16 or 17. I don't remember, but I played on a travel team too. I was into it. My dad coached me some years, like, you know, I wasn't the best, like I wasn't the prime softball goddess, but I was pretty good, especially at hitting. Fielding, that's a slightly different story, but hitting, I was a boss ass bitch. Let's get into this actual thing. I'm just gonna set the scene. 8th grade. Little Jessica Nancy. She's thriving. She just came back from a softball tournament on a Monday at school. She's wearing her softball tournament t-shirt like a boss ass bitch, and she's in gym class. And we're playing softball in gym class. So you know that she's about to dominate, okay? I'm about to destroy everyone, obviously, right? At my middle school, they had like a little mini like softball field here, and then they just had the second field set up like in this open area that wasn't really a softball field. So it was basically grass, and they set up bases or whatever. So our class had the grass field up. So we're just there, we're chilling, we're vibing. I'm up to bat, right? I'm wearing my softball t-shirt. I'm super pumped. I'm super cocky, like I got this, like I play travel softball, so I'm good. That's not what I was like at all, but, you know, just for emphasis. Emphasis! So, basically, I get up to bat. I hit the ball. Didn't go as far as I desired, but went enough for me to get a single. So I am strutting my stuff down the first base line. I am running through the base, because that's what you're supposed to do. I was not, however, informed that there was a puddle of mud behind first base. And so I ran my hardest, and I slipped in that mud, and I fell forward. Both of my arms were erect. They were both completely straight to brace my fall. And so I heard a snap. It was not a very pleasant snap. It sounded like a branch falling off a tree. I stood up out of the mud. Nobody really paid any attention to me. Nobody asked me if I was okay, because I got up and I acted like I was fine. Like, I wasn't crying. I think it was because, you know, the adrenaline was with me. I was doing pretty okay. I just, you know, couldn't move my arm, and my arm looked slightly deformed. So I think I was just kind of like trying to see if my mind was playing tricks on me. I don't know. I asked someone. I was like, hey, does this look deformed to you? And they're like, yeah, it kind of looks pretty bad. I'm like, all right, thanks. Just wanted to ask to make sure I'm not going crazy. So then I get off first base. I walk to the gym teacher, and I'm like, hey, I think I just broke my arm. And he's just sitting there on his phone, and he looks up, and he's like, wait, when did that happen? I'm like, literally 2 minutes ago. That gym teacher needs to get his shit together and not look at his phone anymore. You know, if you are a teacher or a school professional, pay attention to your class so things like this don't happen. Or if they do, you're prepared. That's my PSA. Anyway, I walk over there and I tell him, and he's like, okay, someone can take you to the nurse. My friend Caitlin, she's probably watching this, like, hey girl, she was trying to like take me to the nurse. And then this other girl, we'll call her Lily, comes up. No, I'll take her. And then Lily takes me instead. That's fine. I knew she wanted to get out of gym class. She didn't really care about my injury. She was actually traumatized because of my injury, I think. Mainly because the entire walk to the nurse's office, it sounded like she was reassuring me, but she was really reassuring herself, saying things like, oh, you're gonna be okay, it's fine, it's not as bad as it looks. And I was completely, like, stable. I was chill, like, I was okay. It didn't hurt too bad. Like, I was fine. And so we were walking. I get to the nurse's office. She drops me off. All right. Got her out of gym for a solid 5 minutes, so she benefited regardless, even if she was slightly traumatized. And so I went to the nurse's office. I walk in. One of my other friends is there. We'll call her Leslie. Leslie asks, like, what's up? Like, what happened? I'm like, I broke my arm slipping in mud in gym class. Playing softball, a sport I played since I was 5. And I broke my arm slipping in mud. Playing softball. Just what steps 5. Like, process that. That's hilarious. So I was like laughing, she was laughing. The nurse comes in, my parents were called, and I'm picked up. We then immediately make an appointment and go to the doctor to get it like checked out to see how bad the damage was. So the damage was not too horrible, just horrible enough for them to tell me I needed surgery. And then I cried, okay? It was my radius. If you don't know anything about anatomy, that's the smaller bone in your forearm. It just like snapped inward. So I don't know if you can still tell, but like I have kind of like an indent when I straighten my arm. That's because my bone snapped in half. Alright, so then I freaked out when I was told I needed surgery. I cried. I was upset because I was super scared. Like, I don't want to be put under. I heard all these like surgery horror stories when they don't use enough anesthesia and like, I don't know, being cut open like a sliced ham freaked me out. So I was like, this is scary. I don't want to do this. No. And I was really scared. But my parents were very comforting and supportive, so it was all okay. And note that they gave me a bent cast in the meantime between like then and the surgery. So it was like at least stable enough to work. My bone was not aligned up at all, but the cast was on to ensure that it wasn't gonna get even worse than it was. In those few days after that, I had my 8th grade lake trip that I could not really participate too much in because, you know, my arm was broken. I basically stood in the pool with a plastic bag over my cast. I don't know what you mean, but like it was a look. I was standing there with my plastic bag over my cast, serving looks to all the boys, like, you know, I'm the different one with the plastic arm. Like, honestly, a vibe. I was a little disappointed, but it was what it was. I mean, I still got to go. It was fine. I'm still slightly bitter that I didn't get to go on the water trampoline, but, you know, that's a side comment. I also had to, like, in that meantime, take a portion of my Spanish final that I missed because of my broken arm. And I had to, like, hold the paper with my arm in the cast and, like, circle with my fist. And it was a mess, okay? I'm a righty and I broke my right arm. You break your dominant arm, your other arm is basically useless. And you realize this really quickly. So, a few days later, the surgery comes. The big day. My time to shine. So, I went to the surgery place with my parents. They take me in, like, the waiting room, like, their little, like, pre-surgery room in, like, one of those beds. They get me all dolled up in my sexy-ass gown and hat. My parents took a picture of me looking like I'm crazy, which is here, if I can find it. So, I was scared. I was still scared, for sure. But I was more so just uncomfortable because they stuck the needle, like, in my arm. And I was just chilling there with a needle in my arm for a solid hour because they were behind schedule. And, like, it wasn't painful, it was just really uncomfortable. You know, you just have the urge to rip it out. You know what I mean? Like, if you ever had blood drawn or, you know, had a needle in your arm for a duration of time, you really just have the urge to rip it out. But no, it's like, I'm strong, I'm not gonna do that. And so, yeah, I was just chilling there for a while. Eventually, they took me back to where my surgery was going to be done, and they laid me on the bed. And I'm laying there, and they attach me to the anesthetics, they pump them in me. They give me those drugs. And they tell me to count, like, down from 10. And as I'm counting in my head, I'm, like, looking at the ceiling. It was actually really cool. Like, the room kind of, like, darkened and spun out a little bit. I don't know. I really liked it. I think that's probably the psychopath inside of me. But, yeah, I enjoyed it. I don't know why. I think that's a me problem. I might need some counseling. But beside the point, I did. A couple hours later, I woke up in the holding room, I'll call it. The room afterwards. And I was just sitting there. And I first woke up, there was kind of just like a bunch of like nurses and doctors like walking around, or like the care people. I don't know what you call them. I don't think those are the people who did surgery on me. Basically, I'm sitting there and they asked me like if I want like a snack or a drink. They offered me so many options, and you know what I said? I wanted a corn muffin. And you know why that was a bad decision? My throat was as dry as the Sahara. And I wanted a corn muffin, and I did not think this through, and it was kind of just the only thing I was coherent enough to really understand what they were saying, because I was still, like, out of it, okay? I was still out of it. And so I got a corn muffin and apple juice, which both collectively dried my throat even more. My throat was parched, it was scratchy, it felt like, you know, sandpaper going down my esophagus. But you know what? It was good. It tasted good, but the experience of eating it kind of contradicted that and made it slightly unpleasant. So anyway, after that whole debacle, I was wheeled into another area where I met my parents, still laying in the bed, and the doctor came and explained my situation. So they tried to set my arm one more time before cutting me open, and they managed to do it. So I wasn't cut open like a sliced ham. So the cast this time was a full arm straight cast. Even my little thumb was covered, you know, which was a look, honestly. And so I rocked it. And this was right before 8th grade step up is what we call their like little 8th grade graduation. Like, oh, you're an adult now going to high school, you're coming of age, whatever. So, you know, during that little 8th grade graduation, there's little Jessica Nancy with her full arm white cast in her dress. My mom, well, she bought me this fabric lace to put over it, and at the last one I was like, no, that would look weird, and then I didn't do it.
I didn't do it. I didn't do it.
Sorry, Mom, I made you buy like $5 worth of fabric for nothing, but, you know, I had my life on the line. I needed to maintain my social standing because obviously everyone wanted to know what happened. Literally nobody asked me what happened, but, you know, that's okay. I was who I was in middle school. You were who you were in middle school. We were all awkward. We were all strange. We may or may not have had friends, and that's okay. Like, you grew into the person you are. You're probably a badass bitch now, like, much like myself. So, I had my straight arm cast on for a solid, I'd say, like, 2 months. And then I got a bent cast for a couple weeks. Then I got a brace. This was for basically my entire summer. Yeah, that's my story about my broken arm and my surgery. And yeah, if you want to hear any more sports injury stories, I have a plethora. So please let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching and listening to me talk. This was fun and therapeutic, and I really enjoyed myself here today. So I hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble too. I had a great time. Just remember to make the most of situations like these. Like, I can look back and laugh and have a fun time. And, you know, going through hard things like, you know, whether it's a broken arm to a global pandemic, you can get through. Have a great day. Stay wise, guys. And I'll see you next time. Bye. Because of that, I was not able to try out for volleyball because I also then was just like, I'll just play field hockey because, you know, I didn't have to try out for field hockey and I could play with a brace on my arm for the whole season, which I did. And honestly, it wasn't that bad. It gave me kind of terrible tan lines, but it really wasn't horrible.